like it.
I don't think we'll be able to hear.
I can't hear you.
Okay. Can you start, please?
Are we going to adjust the camera or
A little bit.
no? Hi. Are we live? Is this on?
Yep, we're on.
What are we on right now?
Step 10.
No, I mean like what channels?
We're just on Facebook Live. I haven't put us out on anything else.
Facebook, your page?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Jerry. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle with chemical dependency and all kinds of other addictions, compulsions. This is my wife, Tanya.
Hi, we're back after a long summer break. Stay with us.
Who are you?
I'm Tanya. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I struggle with codependency, anger, and self-starting, which apparently is an issue with codependency, that you can't start or finish a project.
Similar to procrastination, then?
It's about the same.
Okay. I've never heard that one.
You're probably going to have to speak up because of the way the camera is.
If I start talking, I don't stop, so why don't you...
Okay, I've got to get us loaded.
Okay, well, we're talking about Step 10 today, after a long break. Step 10 is continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So, I really like this step. It's a callback to Step 4, which is, a searching and fearless moral inventory. But we refer to this as a daily inventory, as kind of the slang. Traditionally, it's my understanding that the majority of people do this at the end of every day. Many of them are encouraged to write out a personal inventory, and pretty much what this is you go through the events of your day, and you kind of ask the question, I really like to look at it like this, and this is from a completely different set of books that really didn't have anything to do specifically with recovery, but I like to look at it on a general sense of, as I look back at my day or at a particular interaction, minute by minute through my day, I tend not to take an inventory at the end of the day. I tend to take it a spot inventory, as we also slang. So each time a situation arises where it was somewhat challenging, or as I reflect on any particular interaction, I take a spot inventory and I address it with two questions. First, could I have shown more courage? And second, could I have shown more love? And that's kind of the two questions that I ask myself as I go through my personal inventory. The second part of
There you go. You're back.
I'm back. So first part, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So that second part, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. I personally, I really like that part the most. I think, and perhaps I'm being harsh, but that a lot of people don't focus on that as much. I mean, I like to look at it as two separate parts, and I really like that second part, as much as I do the first. When we were wrong, promptly admitted it. As we go through the steps, I was encouraged anyway through my sponsors to do them in order. So we did a Step 4 inventory, Step 5 confession, Step 6 trying to getting prepped to ask God to remove all our character defects. Step 7, ask God to remove all our character defects. Step 8, make a list of all peoples we had harmed, and then Step 9, go out there and actually try and amend the harms that we had done. So there's this big, long process. Once we get to Step 10, it's kind of like, oh, perhaps I shouldn't have said he was a jerk. I'm going to go over there and promptly admit that I was wrong right away. No big, long, drawn-out procedure. I really like it. I struggle with it sometimes, especially in particular, nobody likes saying they're wrong. So, yeah. But I personally, I really like the instant gratification of, I need to amend that. I'm going to go over there and do that right now. I'm going to get on the phone and do that right now. I'm going to send an email and do that right now. Yeah. And, honestly, I've also been in situations where it's like, I should have said something critical, but I didn't. And then I need to amend that. If for nothing else, to myself. In order to be right with myself, I need to tell that person that I feel that they were wrong in that, or that they underestimated something happened. What happened?
Oh, my storage. Darn iPhone.
Anyway, so two
Thanks,
steps.
Bill. We're glad to be back to you.
So the two parts are, continue to take personal inventory. So go through the events of our day. A lot of people do it at the end of the day before they go to bed. I like to address that with two questions in mind. Could I have shown more courage? Could I have shown more love? And then the other part, when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So as I spoke earlier, I like to do this on a minute-by-minute basis a lot of times, usually, and then I can go out and say I was wrong right away, or, I could have handled that better, or, perhaps I should have asked you for help. In my situations, a lot of times as a manager, a lot of times I'll let something slide and I'll say, you know what, it's not right to me, it's not right to the team to let that slide. I need to go address that. And then in a way, not in a way, but in a very real sense, I was wrong. I didn't bring that up. I didn't voice the problem that I saw there. And in order to be honest with myself, and as I look back on the situation 10 years later, I don't want to have to say, you know what, I wish I had addressed that on the spot. So that's a lot of verbiage for step 10. The big book, I think, is great because it's just so concise and articulate with how it just hammers out these steps and just solidifies them down to just a few sentences. There's a number of cliches that come out of this. Literally, I don't know, it's like a page and a half of what is done in step 10. So maybe I just start reading here. Step 10 suggests that we continue to take personal inventory, to continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We have entered the world of the spirit. I love that. It always makes me think of Young Guns when they're tripping on peyote and they're like, "We're in the spirit world." I'm not making that up. It's true.
But that's helpful here.
We have entered the world of the spirit. Our next function is to grow into the understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for a lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God to at once remove them. So there's a kind of a call out to a spot inventory. When these crop up at once, we ask God to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. Do I have a booger?
No, I had an itch.
When we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone, we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. We have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. And whenever I read this book, you put whatever you want in for the word alcohol. Procrastination,
self-sabotage, children, homework,
lust,
whatever you decide to make for dinner, which is driving you crazy,
ice cream,
pornography,
makeup.
Yeah. One of the things that I've been asking as I've been putting this out online is how you do your 10th step. Now, I think a living amends, like Jerry was talking about, where you do it absolutely immediately, and when you know you have crossed the line, you take care of it right then, is really positive. But the other way I was taught to do it is to, before you go to bed at night, write down what went well, write down what didn't go so well, and then assess whether things need to be taken care of the next day. I think that's particularly effective with children, because one of the things I don't think we teach children, we say, go over and tell your friend you're sorry. They have no idea why they're telling their friend they're sorry. It's not that they're dumb, but sometimes it's very confusing. So one of the things is, I think that practice helps with working with kids on, well, what went well today and what didn't go so well today and what would you change about tomorrow? And that is super, super important for them to figure out I can go back and say, I'm sorry, there are some things that can't be rectified with just an amends. They have to have action behind them. My other frustration is my frustration with myself about the living amends. So I've said to myself, okay, that didn't work very well. I don't want to do that again. I've put that on my step 10 inventory 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, and I'm still doing it. So I think writing it down gives you a consistent list of what you may be doing, and it doesn't take a whole lot of writing. You can just jot some notes down on what went. I think for most of us who are codependents, you have to put down what went well too, because you just can't spend your time beating yourself up. But then if you get a consistent pattern, that may be something you want to work the 12 steps with. If this is consistently going on. For me, it is time management and being on time and stopping and not trying to shove a whole bunch of things into a little space. It's consistent. It's something I do probably as a control. I do it as a control issue. I want to be in control of all things, but then I'm super frustrated when I can't get to the kids on time, or dinner isn't on time, or things are running behind. And really, tomorrow starts today. So I need to lay out my dream planner tonight and decide what I'm going to do tomorrow.
Dream planner. She said dream planner, Bill.
Talk to me more about that, because that's really been a super big help. But the time management issue is a disciplinary issue, but I see it cropping up over and over again in my inventories. It really drives Jerry bananas. He'll say to me, is that 6 o'clock tiny time, or is that 6 o'clock real time?
That's not true. I have stopped fighting anyone or anything, including alcohol. Just kidding. All right, let me keep reading, because there's only like 3 more paragraphs.
Okay.
For by this time sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in whatever you want to put there. If tempted, we recoil from it as if from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward blank has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. This is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it. Neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we had been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. This is our experience. This is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. It is easy to let up on our spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We are headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. We are not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is this is great. This is a catchphrase in AA. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all of our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are the thoughts which we must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will.
Well, let me stop you right there. So we have a daily reprieve, and that's one of the things that I have so much problem with, is that I don't have a good self-limiting setup, in the sense of I always feel like I can accomplish more than what I think I can accomplish. And so when I'm getting ready to take the kids to school, I want to have the table cleared off. I want to have the dishes put away. I want to have all that ready to go, so when I come back I can write or blog or work on my amazing life, all those types of things, and I want to have that ready to go, and mop the floor. Well, if I mop the floor, then I'm late. So my self-limiting button is kind of broken, and when we come back to this, I get a daily reprieve every time I'm able to make things happen on time. It's not like I'm not aware of what's going to happen, but I oftentimes will just junk out on, I'll get one more thing done, or I'll get this done, and then I won't have to do it later. But what ends up happening is my relationships in my family, my relationships with my kids get damaged because I can't see the reality of my time management problem. And I listened to a comic talk about that he was the one who was always kicking the dirt for 45 minutes after school because his mom just wasn't there. And then she'd show up and she'd be so frazzled and fraught and upset at herself for doing this that it just created a total family meltdown for the rest of the evening. So what I'm looking at it as is, if it's kind of a drunkenness for me. I go in and I try and do all this stuff and feel like I'm accomplished, but I'm losing the main thing. I'm losing the relationship. So every time I do it well, I need to really make a star for that. And that, that doesn't have anything to do with alcohol, but it does have to do with trying to control other people and other situations in the way that I want them to run rather than in the way they run. Because if you put in your calculator that 3 + 7 = 2, that's fine. You can believe that, but it's not going to work with the rest of the world. So that's where I've had to come to terms with it. I'm going to have consequences if I continue to do the behavior that I'm doing.
Yeah, cool. There's two things I'd like to put into this that are not necessarily have anything to do with what Tanya said. But I just noticed, the buzz phrase that I hear often is different than what I just read. It's what we have as a daily reprieve contingent on our spiritual condition. That's what I normally hear said, but that's not what the book says. It says we have a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. That kind of changes the dynamic for me,
And that to me is what a step 10 is, what a daily time with God is. So step 10 and a daily time with God are two separate things, just to be clear. That's what part of this is if I don't do it daily, then I can ride for a little while. It's just like building your muscles. I can ride for a little while, but then things begin to fall out of place. My back begins to hurt, all those things. And if I don't do it daily, then my family begins to suffer. Then I begin to suffer because that buildup builds one on the other. And that's where that daily inventory comes in. And you can do it on the spot and on the moment, but I really think that writing it down helps you look back and say, hey, that's something more that I want to work on.
But it's evidence.
I hate evidence.
I know.
It's evidence. It's truth. It's telling the truth to yourself, and that's what the big book says. Is the people who are unable to tell the truth to themselves are the ones who can't stay sober for whatever they're trying to work on.
That's what the chips say, right? To thine own self be true, right? Now, granted, total honesty is the pinnacle and what we shoot for. But above all, darn it, stay true to what the truth is in your own mind, so you're not delusional. Okay, the other thing I wanted to talk about was oh darn it, I lost it. Let me just finish reading this last paragraph, and then maybe I'll catch it. But much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from Him who has all knowledge and all power. If we carefully follow directions, we have begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. To some extent, we have become God-conscious. We have begun to develop this vital sixth sense. But we must go further, and that means more action. How do people say this is not a God-centered book? I don't get it. Anyway, I digress. I do remember what I wanted to say, and that was, when it comes to chemical addiction, there are some, it's such a weird way to put it, there are some real advantages to working a 12-step program when that's you have such this hard line of, did I cross it or did I not cross it? People have anger issues that they're particularly focusing on working on. It's like, oh gosh, do I have to count that as a relapse? And
I agreed with you to a point for a while, but the dry drunk behavior is just the same. And I mean, with time management, if you cross it or you didn't cross it. With anger, once you begin to know yourself, when you cross it or didn't cross it. Now, anger has a little tweak there in that the other person can always perceive something that is not happening. And,
what do you mean by that?
And they can choose not to allow you to have a different response. They're going to feed into the response that they have always heard rather than what you are saying differently. And that's a hard one to take. But the integrity in yourself, you just need to keep saying it in a different way. But what I have seen and experienced in the chemical dependency realm from the outside is, yes, in some senses it's easier because if you stop drinking, stop using, you just stop doing that. Unlike if you are a food addict, you can't stop eating. You can stop eating the things that are causing you issues, but you can't just stop food. But the dry drunk behavior continues past the substance use.
Well, let's face it. I mean, this was never really about. Well, I know. I guess I'm trying to have my cake and eat it too. But ultimately, the goal of AA was to make it so that alcoholics no longer needed to drink. Okay? But that was it. I mean, that was step, that's kind of like step one. And then after that, it's all about becoming a more God-focused individual, removing character defects, let's say. All character defects. Step 6 is became willing to have, what is it? Became ready and willing to have God remove all these defects of character?
No, that's like 7.
It's,
Oh, you just made fun of me for not... Well, I guess my real point is just because you get rid of the item, pornography, I don't know, prostitution, alcohol, or maybe you live on a beach where time management is not important, that doesn't mean that the behaviors that go with it go away. If you use time management as a control issue of other people and situations so you can be the queen bee, you're still going to do that behavior if you haven't cleared up the issue. It just doesn't disappear because you've taken away the actual substance or circumstance. It still happens.
yeah.
What are you looking for?
Steps 5, 6.
And I've been looking at the CODA site lately, Codependence Anonymous, and that's been a real eye-opener. Apparently, codependents have a lot of issue with starting projects, finishing projects, stopping projects, knowing when to quit, when to start again. All those types of things are huge, and also about their own negative behavior. They're completely unaware that they're behaving in a negative way. Again, step 10 is one of the ways that helps you clarify that. I used to call my sponsor and say, if I wasn't crazy, how would I behave? Because, again, going back to children, that's why this is so important in the family. When they see you behave in a way that seems to be effective, they don't see you when you feel guilty or hurt or upset about it later. They just see what they see as effective. So who's going to repeat that pattern? Those guys are going to repeat that pattern.
How it works. It's in how it works. I know it's not.
And that's I think one of the biggest issues in a recovering family, that even though the substance may be gone or the raging may be gone, a lot of the underlying unhealed procedures remain, and the children see those. In fact, the children see more of what's unsaid rather than what is said. So it is super important for you to be aware of how you're coming across. And I think there's a lot of us who are not aware of that. One of the things that I really noticed when I was I still get angry, but when I was especially acting out of anger was I am yelling at somebody who is half my size. I mean, I don't know if you've been yelled at by another adult. It's intimidating, like when you're yelled at by another adult. But think about being somebody tiny and being yelled at. That's super intimidating. That's scary. I mean, why would that be acceptable for me to do that to these children that I love more than life itself? That's just not acceptable to do it. And it really caught me that when I put my face in that little bitty face, I'm scary. And I don't want to be scary. I want to be nurturing. I want to be the person who guides, the person who coaches, the person who helps you think through why this might be a problem. I think really the only time that we need to be scary is when their life is at risk. When they are tiny and they have run across the street. That's the only time that I think we need to be scary and say, we can't have this at all, is when they are truly at risk with their lives.
Any questions?
So we're going to try and wrap this up. over the next couple weeks. We've got 2 more steps to do, and then we're going to pick out different topics. And so if you have things that you'd like to address with us, you can always shoot us an email. It's up at the top. We would love to have your comments. We would love to have you like up above. And then we're putting all these out in a series on YouTube. So thejoyousfamily.com is YouTube. You have to have the .com on there. The other thing we have is all our family adventures over the summer, and even Jerry got to participate at the beach in Alabama, and it was lots of fun. So we hope you come over and watch those as well. We are interested, we're doing this as a service piece because it's important to us. And as the big book says, you need to go out and share your spiritual experience with other people so that you stay sober. So that is part of our Experience, Strength, and Hope, is we'd like to build a community around this of families who are trying to raise their kids in a way that breaks this generational curse, is what it is, that they can walk out and not choose to be codependent, not choose to be addicted, not choose to have rage issues, that they can work through those pieces. So we're so glad that you're here. We're so glad that you're part of this, and we are super excited to be doing this back as a team again. And what we're trying to use as our tagline is tell the truth. No. I can't get it right. Trust God, clean house, tell the truth. Because that's super important, and that's what we're trying to work with our kids on, is that telling the truth to yourself is even more important than telling the truth out in the world. Not that they're both not important. And so we hope to see you again. Please join in our community, and we'd love to hear from you. If there's a format you would like better, or a time you would like better, or questions that you want us to talk about, we are excited to do that.
Yeah.
Jerry's trying to run off to the gym. That's why he's in a hurry, and he hasn't been there in a while, so his muscles are
Atrophying
as we speak. All right, thanks. Bye.